There's no way. You've been trying, right? You've been trying to manage their emotions and your own. But if this is a relationship, they've got to be participants. And so as you tell yourself that, just say, hey, like, this is what it's going to take to fix the relationship. I'm going to need their help. You can articulate some of that to them, but you don't have to share all that. But that's how you manage your own emotions. Then you just notice this pattern, recognize that a lot of what you're feeling is actually being offloaded by them and is not yours to fix. Because the other thing that happens is that when these situations arise, you're left guessing how to fix it. They don't even articulate what they want you to do. So you're just like left feeling guilty, and then you're like trying to like, you know, play darts with a blindfold, and you're trying to hit the bullseye, and like you don't even know what they want, right? And so then you're jumping through 1,000 hoops, whereas if they took some responsibility to tell you, hey, here's what I need to feel better, then it would be like so much less effort for you. But you're left like spinning your wheels and blind and stuff like that. You don't know how to fix it. But you keep trying and you keep trying and you keep trying because you feel guilty, you feel guilty, you feel guilty. And then what ends up happening is oftentimes we'll get so frustrated that we just have to break up with them or something like that. And then that creates a whole other thing where they like start to, you know, escalate even further. And because anytime they feel negative emotion, what are they going to do? They're going to use that emotional umbilical cord to dump it back on you. So just recognize all of this stuff that's going on. And if you want to engage in a relationship with this person, which I know that the internet will say, oh, this person is emotionally manipulative, break up with them. The truth of the matter is that like half the human beings on the planet are in relationships with people who are like emotionally manipulative in some way, right? I don't even have statistics about that. That's just my gut, okay? The key thing, though, is that like a lot of times we don't want to break up with this person because this person isn't like a bad human being. They just don't know how to articulate their emotions. They don't know how to accept responsibility for their emotions. They don't know how to be a partner in a relationship. So what we actually need to do is, if you want to try to maintain some kind of relationship with them, is use this technique, right? First of all, recognize the emotional transfer and then acknowledge their emotions. And then what we're going to do is, instead of like us being omniscient, we're going to admit our failures and we're going to ask for help. Hey, I need your help to figure out like how to move forward from here. How are we going to fix this? So you want to use like first person plural language. And if they're going to come back with all this kind of crap and they're going to say, oh, if you don't know, then I don't know how to tell you. And you can say, yeah, that's really hard for me when I'm in a relationship. You just want to state what's happening. I'm in a relationship with someone who is not able to articulate what they think is wrong. I don't know how to fix that relationship. Period. I can't fix relationships in which my partner can't articulate what's wrong. Period. And then they'll start crying a lot. And then you can say like, okay, I can see that I'm telling you I need help and I'm not getting the help. I'm not getting any communication. I'm going to step away from this situation. And then what you need to do is like step
For some reason, I've always had the drive to max out every area of my life. I saw life as a video game. My mind, body, spirit, and finances were the traits that I had to gain experience in. I wanted to become multidimensionally jacked. Maybe because I started questioning the default path early. Maybe because I noticed how unhappy, overweight, and miserable people seemed. Maybe because I observed how people limited their opportunities by taking a specific path in life. It didn't make sense to follow what most people do because that would lead to a life that most people have, and that isn't pretty. The problem with the default path in life, or your trajectory that you are set on and conditioned into since birth, is compartmentalization, specialization, and niching down. We are trained to focus on one dot instead of the lines that connect the dots. In school, we learn biology, chemistry, math, literature, and more. We go to individual classes that don't connect the dots between them all. It lacks holism, creativity, and the kind of practicality that gets abnormal results. After school, we narrow our minds further on what we think we want to be for the rest of our lives. We're expected as teenagers to choose one of infinite paths in life when we haven't even started our real life. How can we know exactly what we want? There doesn't seem to be a greater recipe for misery than to focus on one thing for the rest of your life. This strips our curiosity and creativity from us. It leads to a world where warriors lack brains and intellectuals lack balls. A philosopher will ignore the practical aspects of life simply because they identify as a philosopher. They are an intellectual, not a warrior. But the main question of philosophy is, how does one live the best life? And so if a philosopher can't build a business or manage their emotions or create fulfilling relationships, then their philosophy means absolutely nothing. And the same thing goes for something like the reductionistic approach to science, where you throw a frog in a blender and you observe its parts, but that lacks the holistic nature of the frog. That limits the discoveries that can be made. Rather than observing the frog in its environment and how it moves, even if you put it in an environment that you create, that still, there's no frogs interacting with it. It's not able to travel. It's not able to do its own thing. And so observing and studying and taking every single piece, taking the universe into account, and like a cone coming down from the sky, this is metaphorical, analogous, where truth is this big picture narrowed in on one small aspect of reality and making discoveries that way, like a spotlight. The effects of compartmentalized learning destroy our individual potential. So now we need to discuss the modern or the digital Renaissance man. So here's a graphic where the digital Renaissance man is self-educated. They pursue their curiosity. They build digital leverage. They embark on physical training. They are health conscious. They socialize. They dedicate time to purposeful work, and they are spiritually inclined. Because at birth, we are prescribed a certain way of life. Go to school, get a job, find a partner, try to squeeze in activities that make life good, retire at 65, and never work again, when work is a necessary part of life that should involve investing our attention in what we deem enjoyable. In school, we're told to pick a major. In business, we're told to pick a niche. So we neglect the other areas of study that make those things work better, and our results suffer because of it. Creativity is the path to wealth, mental and financial. And creativity requires a high level of understanding focused on a specific problems, like the cone. We are smack in the middle of a second golden age. There is so much information on the internet that it becomes overwhelming. There is no way you can learn everything, but you can learn quite a bit. People still live in a paradigm where they have to get very good at one thing, because in the past, that's what the environment required for success. Now, success is reserved for the value creator, the specialized generalist, the new Renaissance man, the digital Renaissance man, somebody who can study diverse interests, create value from them, and sustain an enjoyable lifestyle like I teach in digital economics. So before we dive in, I have an announcement. I am running one last Solopreneur Sprints before the year ends. And this may be the last one simply because I'm building a new software business and we're going to transfer the sprints over to that. There's going to be different topics. So this is the last time the sprints on the one-person business model will actually be a thing. So if you're interested in creating your niche of one, building a name for yourself, and creating profitable career and business opportunities, writing about your interests, and hopefully discovering your life's work, I would encourage that you at least check it out and enroll before the closing date. The link is in the description. solopreneur sprints. We live in very interesting times where there is an overabundance of information, but it's only overwhelming to those that don't have goals and intentions behind their learning. Because that's how you learn everything, is you filter signal from noise in every single piece of information that you process in alignment with the conscious goals that you set for yourself, not the goals that someone set for you. Because when you are born, people are just projecting goal after goal after goal that shapes your behavior and what you do. And so you perceive life through that lens and you attempt to survive to achieve those goals. Those goals are how you survive, and you interpret information and learn in that fashion. The creator economy emerged and it started condensing information into actionable courses on things like business, health, wealth, relationships, etc. Content, courses, and books are like zip files for your mind in the modern world. It no longer takes 4 to 12 years, $40,000, and a piece of paper to make a replaceable income. But this implies personal responsibility. Nobody is there to hold your hand. So here's what you do. The first thing is that you have to become nobody. Become labelless, become everything. Be a designer, writer, marketer, socializer, runner, bodybuilder, philosopher, scientist, psychologist, and polymath that knows how to sustain their obsessive curiosity. Subscribing to one skill, ideology, or identity limits your potential in every situation. The universe is a shapeshifter. It is in constant flow. The oceans evaporate, condense in the clouds, rain down into puddles, and the water inevitably finds its way back. Nothing is permanent. Your cells are completely different from just a few years ago. Your interests are allowed to change. Your mind is allowed to change. You are allowed to change. Become the universe. Point number 2 is the curiosity compass. As a kid, people would discourage going through a phase. Now, I had my emo phase in high school. I had my bodybuilder phase. I had my raver phase, and all of them have shaped who I am today, because evolution is about transcending and including. And so you transcend and you pull the good parts up with you, where I have learned different things throughout my life when I went through those phases and was obsessively curious and experiencing life in those domains, whether it be the gym bro phase, the emo phase with different music, and even the raver phase, and meeting interesting people at raves. But that's the thing, is that there's absolutely nothing wrong with experimentation. There is absolutely something wrong with conforming to the whims of others. And this even goes for something like going through a phase where you just have to consistently check in with yourself and make sure that you are thinking independently and not completely relinquishing your autonomy just because you want to fit in with that specific group. Prescriptions, roadmaps, and long curriculums are not bad, but they narrow your mind on a specific outcome with specific advice to reach that goal. This is useful, but should not be treated as a one and done type of deal. That's how you get trapped in a miserable life. There is one pattern I've noticed in both myself and those I aspire to be like. They don't limit what they learn to one thing. Everything connects. By pursuing what you're curious about, not only are you motivated to learn, but pattern recognition increases meaningful dopamine in the brain to help you solidify high-level knowledge. Focus on one thing is good advice, but only if that one thing is a massive, unrealistic goal that requires you to focus on a plethora of skills, interests, and experiences to achieve that goal, or at least make it close to achieving that goal. It is wise to become obsessively curious with a skill for 1 to 2 months so that you can add it to your toolbox, and then when you move on to the next one, you do it from a place of better experience, and you're able to notice more, and you're able to acquire skills faster, and all of them combine and culminate into this very unique skill set that nobody else has, because you are pursuing curiosity, and nobody has the same curiosities as you. By pursuing curiosity, you are separating yourself from the competition because you are creating something truly unique, not only a skill set, but what you are able to produce in terms of like a product or service for someone else so that you can earn an income from it, or just when you communicate. You don't want to be the same as everyone else. And so the best way to do that is to diversify through curiosity. And even in business, when you niche down for too long or too far niche down, then you just become a glorified search engine. You lack depth. You lack depth and personality. You lack the thing that the future will require. People have explored the niche areas of life enough, right? You don't have to subscribe to one little path like, oh, I'm going to be a biologist, I'm going to be a chemist, I'm going to be something else. You can become everything nowadays simply because the learning is available with courses, content, books, etc. So readily available information, and your ability to really do anything that you want. You can write content, you can build a readership. It's all pointing to the creator economy and just distributing the value that you've cultivated over time, but most people don't cultivate that value. So the people that do and can pursue their curiosity for 1 to 2 months on end obsessively for the thing that they discover through experimentation, because there's going to be certain things that don't resonate with you. But when you actually do that, then over the course of 1-2 years, you launch ahead of 99% of people. And so that's the third point here, is that you have to invest in your education. In this life, you own one thing, your mind. Everything else can be taken away from you. There's one thing that the school system did get right, which is consistent daily education in hopes for a better future. But schools don't prioritize curiosity, so most people hate learning by the time they graduate. Learning is the foundation of the human experience, and once you stop, you die. Hammer it into your head that you have to be learning something, anything, every single day. No matter if it's 10 minutes or 3 hours, your future depends on it. It really does. There is no other way to discover a new potential for your life so that you can actually move in a new direction that wasn't assigned to you, because you can't act on opportunities that don't exist to you. And you can't even register specific opportunities because you have to get to a specific level by doing your own thing enough to actually be able to note that, because you have the skill to do so. See, if I haven't even started a business, I'm not going to be able to see someone, let's say on the internet, and be like, oh, this guy has this business, I have this offer, he's going to be able to pay me this much, I'm going to reach out to him in a way that I know how to do, and then eventually systemize that into a way that consistently gets me those clients. You don't know what to do because you haven't started doing anything. When you stop learning, your life stops progressing, you stop growing, the psychological benefits and feel-good chemicals stop flowing. Life gets mediocre and repetitive, you become mechanical and robotic. And so we've talked about learning a lot through curiosity, education, becoming nobody, doing everything, but learning means nothing without building. So in my new book, The Art of Focus, which I am launching a keepsake edition, a keepsake box, this won't be a normal book launch. There is an updates link in the description if you want to join and get updates on that. But in the book, I have a section on the philosophy of the builder, because one pattern I've noticed in my life is that I've always carved out time to build something of my own. Schoolwork, client work, and projects assigned to me at a job were necessary, but didn't get me the fulfillment I was looking for. My life was the meta project that was built through a series of personal and business projects. Projects frame your attention and learning. When your focus is on that which you are building, all information that you are exposed to is filtered through that lens, as long as you remain focused on the project. The source of learning is struggle, not memorization. You must encounter a problem, discover the solution to that problem, and integrate it into your life. To identify a problem, you need a goal. To solve a problem, you need to create a solution. To create a solution, you need a project to invest your attention in for the next 1 to 6 months. This is what I do every single morning. This is what I mean by I've always had a project to build. With my focused work and deep work and 4-hour workday philosophy, the first block of every single morning was that high lever project that I was building out that would lead me to the life that I wanted. And even when I was working a 9 to 5, I still had that hour every single day that I was building something. I was making progress no matter how slow it was. And when I say project, I mean something that is measurable and documented. And it doesn't have to be something like a physical product where you're like, you think of project and you're like, oh, I need a hammer, I need nails, I need wood, I need to like arts and crafts. That's not what I mean. It can be as simple as having like a weight training log for going to the gym and tracking your food, tracking your weight, and researching and learning about fitness information along the way so that you can correct your actions along the way, because you're not going to be able to actually register a problem when you are consuming the education that you're trying to learn, because you aren't doing anything that would make you realize you have that problem. It's just going to go in one ear and out the other. And so the same holds true for business, is when you are building a product or when you're building a brand, you have the project consists of levers that you're moving every single day, and it has milestones. It has different things, components of the project that you have to piece together. So let's start there. The first thing you need is big, irrational goals followed by small, rational steps. Again, we have the cone shape that dictates truth. One habit to build your mind, one habit to build your body, one habit to build your business. Experiment until you can find the ones you can stick with for life. In 5 years, you won't be the same person. Big goals are better than small goals because they give you the vision, motivation, and long-term focus necessary to see them through. Because I get more excited about wanting to build $1 million business in 1 year instead of sending 10 networking emails a day. I get more excited looking shredded on the beach this summer than I do meal prepping for the week or having the weekly goal of meal prepping. So to embark on the journey of becoming multidimensionally jacked, you need to create a big goal for each pillar of your life. The first is mind. How do you want to handle emotions and stress? Do you want to have the same mediocre mindset as everyone else? The second is body. How do you want to look and feel? How does that impact other areas of your life, like how others perceive you and throw opportunities at you? The third is spirit. Do you feel like life lacks meaning, wonder, and fulfillment? Do you feel like life is happening to you or that you are flowing with life? The fourth is business. How much money do you want to make? Why? Do you want that money to come from a purposeful endeavor, unlike 90% of jobs? And the problem is that most people stop here. They mentally masturbate over their goals and they tell people about it, which is scientifically shown to increase dopamine levels in the brain as if you achieve that goal. And you end up never making any meaningful progress towards them. So the second step is to outline a project for each domain of life. The goal is the what, the vision is the why, and the project is the how. Now that we have a vision and motivation for our goals, we need to gain clarity. Projects have a goal, process, and priority actions to knock out on a daily basis. So what can you do every single day that will move the needle toward your goals? What aspects of your goals do you need to educate yourself on to make better decisions? How can you document your progress in a way that keeps you motivated to come back tomorrow? So in a notebook where hopefully you wrote down your goals, I hope you're not just watching this and learning without building, I want you to create a simple project for each goal. So first thing you write down is the milestones. So write down tangible milestones with realistic timelines. The second is variables. Write out each variable that will help you achieve the goal. For health, it's nutrition, training, sleep. For business, it's product, traffic generation, content, etc., etc. You can figure that out. The third is principles, the priority actions that will move the needle forward. And the fourth is the skills you have to acquire to actualize that goal. This brings even more clarity to changing your life. Now, the third thing we need to understand is that you want to start, then learn. If you want to learn faster, don't start learning. First, outline a project. Second, start building it out. Third, learn along the way. Too many people get trapped in tutorial hell, stacking up useless knowledge as brain fog. Start, encounter a problem, and experiment with different techniques to solve that problem. And when I was learning Photoshop, I would try to learn everything before even using the software. And when I did start using the software, it was starting over from scratch. I didn't know anything. I had to supplement with specific tutorials and videos that were like, create with me, or here's me building out a piece in Photoshop. And I had to figure out just what to do along the way, where if I had a problem and I watch a video, then that problem is in my head and I'm going to see what the other person is doing and I'm going to remember that much, much more, and I'm going to be able to go back to my project and fix it. And this is why you need that constant balance of learning, building, learning, building, learning, building. You can't have one without the other. You can't have output without input. So as you can tell, I would highly recommend a general education habit. Literally just 10 to 30 minutes a day of listening to a YouTube video that interests you, or a podcast, or reading part of a book, or reading like a short form summary, like with the app short form, or really anything like that. Just learn something. The last and fourth thing that we have to touch on here is lifestyle design through habit formation. Build your mind with books, self-reflection, and writing. Build your body with the gym, long walks, and nutrient-dense foods. Build your business with skill acquisition, problem solving, and self-promotion. Becoming multidimensionally jacked is the path to the good life. The difference between you and who you want to become are the habits that compose your lifestyle. Think about it. Do mentally, physically, or financially jacked people just wake up with the best mind, body, and business one day? Or do they have tiny actions they take on a daily basis that maintains their progress and builds towards a better future? And most people will tell you to stop playing video games, to stop going out, and to stop distracting yourself. And I agree, but I don't. I still play video games here and there, maybe like 4 to 5 hours a week, if that, maybe like 2 to 5. It varies, right? It's not habitual. And I still go out with friends and stay up late, but that's like every 2 to 4 weeks. It really just depends. I have other things to do. I have my priorities straight. And so when the time comes up, I can actually think critically about that and make a good decision. And so the reason I outpace 95% of people is that I front load my mornings with needle moving tasks. Between 5 a.m. and 11 a.m., I go on a run 3 to 4 days a week. Otherwise, I go on a walk the other days to maintain that habit of going outside. I write my newsletter and content for 1 hour. This sustains 95% of my business. Remember, principles. I build out a new project. Right now it's my book launch and software company. I hit the gym 6 to 7 days a week. I take walks in between all of those activities. I cook nutrient-dense meals that take 10 to 15 minutes to prepare and eat out for dinner quite a bit. I'm hovering around 4,500 calories a day. This is a picture of me right now, just to post physique, show proof that I'm not just like hiding in an oversized tee right now. And I understand that not everyone can do this because of time constraints, but there is something you can do. There's some part of your life that you can change. And once you stop believing that, you're fucked. And you may not be able to do it right now, but you can do what you can right now so that you can do what you want in the future. And as you get results from your efforts, you become more efficient at what you do. Time will free up, since that should be a sub goal for almost every goal you set. It's a great way of measuring progress. When in doubt, waking up an hour earlier unlocks the distraction-free time that will solve most of your problems. That's it for this video, my friends. I appreciate you watching. The Art of Focus coming soon. Check the links in the description for Solopreneur Sprints. That is starting on September 12th. Enrollment will close that date. If you want to build the foundation of your one-person business and productize yourself and talk about your interests and just create meaningful work for yourself, hopefully your life's work. Other things in the description as well.
Five, four, three, two, one. Boom, and we're live. Thanks for doing this, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you for having me. I appreciate that.
You're the only guy I've ever had in the studio where when I showed up, you were working out.
Man, that's my life. That's my life.
It's pretty crazy, though. I mean, how much time did you have when you got here?
I got here about an hour early.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We got a little early.
So I got here, shirt off, doing chin-ups. It was hilarious. I didn't get my camera out in time before you saw me. I wanted to take some pictures.
Well, maybe next time.
Next time. Well, I'll catch you after the show. You are a guy that, for a lot of people, you sort of embody the idea of hardening your mind,
right,
and figuring out a way to do things that most people think are impossible.
Right.
You've sort of become that guy over your life, and you've become that guy for a lot of people, including me, online. We've talked about you on the podcast a ton of times.
Right.
So having you in here has been it's very exciting to me.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
How'd you become that guy?
You know what? I grew up not that guy.
Yeah.
So a lot of people put a title on me. They want to, they see me now. They see me now as the guy that with his shirt off who can do 4,030 pull-ups in 17 hours, who can run 205 miles in 39 hours, who can do all this crazy shit. But what they don't understand is they don't understand the journey that it took me to get to this point. And what got me to this point was I was just the opposite of what I am today. I was that guy who ran away from absolutely everything that got in front of me. But not many people knew that. I had two people. Like the real me was like this very scared, insecure, stuttering, got beat up by his dad, all this kind of stuff. And then I built this fake person that walked around like my shit didn't stink, you know? You know,
Right.
yeah, so that's kind of how I did it. And through a process of time, I realized that I was lying to myself and lying to people.
But it's a fascinating journey, though, because you are that guy now. I
Right.
mean, you genuinely are a legit badass. And
Right.
at one point in time, you were a legit terrified person.
Yes.
So what was the process? Like, how did you step forth?
Well, it's a long process.
Right.
My dad beat the shit out of me when I was growing up. I was the first black baby born in this hospital called Miller Fillmore in Buffalo, New York. My dad owned skating rinks, he owned bars, he ran prostitutes from Canada to Buffalo, New York. My dad was a big time pimp, big time, anything bad about a person, big time hustler. He was American, you know that movie with Denzel Washington? He was that, but not that bad.
Right.
You know, he wasn't that big, but that's what it reminds me of. He was that kind of guy. And beat the shit out of me, beat the shit out, out of my mom. There was an incident one time when my mom got knocked out on top of the stairs, and he dragged her down the stairs by her hair. And at 6 years old, I'll never forget this. In my mind, I was always afraid. Voice, this conscience, that would always be battling me, saying, hey, you got to get up and do something. I didn't want to do shit. I was just afraid, but that voice would force me to get up. And my dad, I tried to beat him up, whatever, at 6, and I get my ass kicked. So this went on for several years. And I have a big time learning disability because my dad didn't believe in us going to school. So my dad, it was about the business, the skating rink and the bar. So the skating rink opened about 7 o'clock at night. And this is when the time I was able to walk. So about 4, 5, 6 years old, 8, 9. And I'd go to this, skating rink at 7 o'clock at night. And I worked the skating rink until 10 at night. And then we would scrape the gum off the floors and we cleaned the whole skating rink up. And then my dad had an office. And my brother and myself would sleep in the office. And my mom would go upstairs and work the bar until 3 o'clock in the morning. And then they cleaned the bar up. So after all that shit was done with, going to school rarely happened. So when I went to school, I was all kind of, my learning disability. I had social anxiety. I was just a jacked up kid from living in this tortured home. From the outside looking in, we lived in an all-white neighborhood, and then we would travel to the ghetto of Buffalo, New York, where the skating rink was at. So we worked around mostly blacks, and I lived around mostly whites. But no one knew what was going on in that house on 201 Paradise Road. It's crazy. But my mom got courage to finally leave him. When I was about 8 years old, we moved to a small town in Brazil, Indiana, and that's when the real war started for me. And Brazil, Indiana is a small town. Great people, a lot of great people. And I say that because a lot of people get offended. And I'm going to get to the point why they get offended. There was about maybe 10 black families at about 10,000 people in the town. And in 1995, the KKK marched in the 4th of July parade. So this was not everybody was racist. There was a lot of good people. Some of the best people I knew was there, but there was also a lot of racism there. So me being one of the few black kids in that, in that area, it kind of haunts you. I had stuff on my notebook, nigga, we're going to kill you, on my Spanish notebook. They had that on my car, nigga, we're going to kill you. This is early 90s. And so even though I showed it didn't hurt me, it was jacking me up. So all the insecurities I had when I was a kid with my father, I moved into this area here, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And the shit haunted me. And that voice that I talked about, it kept talking louder and louder and louder, but I was doing nothing about it. And I decided to make moves. And I cheated all through school. And it's kind of humbling to talk about my stories sometimes, and it's also embarrassing, but it's real. It's who the fuck I am. It's what I am. It's what created me. And copied from the 4th grade to my junior year in high school on every assignment. And I wanted to get in the military, wanted to join the Air Force, and the guy gave me an ASVAB test. It's like a watered-down SAT. And I couldn't copy on it because the guy beside me had a test A, I had test B. The guy on my right had test C. So I looked to copy on this test, and I couldn't copy on it, so I got like a 20. And I wanted to be an Air Force pararescueman. It's guys that jump out of airplanes and save down pilots. It's a special operator in the Air Force. And my score was so horribly low that I'd retake it again. And he said, hey, I got like an 18 the second time, even worse. I need to get a 50 out of a 99. And so my mom and I, for a while, we lived in the government subsidized apartments, $7 a month, and also food stamps. And we slowly moved up to a $230 a month place. But at the time, we pretty poor. But my mom afforded enough money for me to go to see a tutor 1 hour a week. So for 4 hours a month, and I had 6 months to study for my last test. I could only take the ASVAB test 3 times. And I studied my ass off and passed it. And I got in the Air Force and realized there was more things in front of me. I was afraid of the water, terrified of the water. And I learned how to swim, but what gets everybody in this training, in all special ops training, is the water confidence, where they try to pretty much drown your ass. All of our lives we've been breathing. And they take that from you, and they want to see how comfortable you are in the water. And there's only 1% African Americans in special operations. And I didn't know anything about African, like a lot of them are negative buoyant, which I am, because of the bone density. I struggled. But 6 weeks into the program, there was about 25 guys left out of about 150. I was there, and I didn't go to sleep for 6 weeks of the program. And I wanted to quit so badly, but I quit everything in my life. I copied through school. I wanted to prove people wrong. And so here I am in this Air Force program, starting to get a little more confidence, but this water was kicking my ass. And 6 weeks into the program, the doctor gave me a blood test and realized I have sickle cell trait, not the anemia, but it still killed people. But so they pulled me out of training for a week. And when you go from being very uncomfortable in that water situation, and then now you're comfortable, and I'm sitting back watching the guys drown, 'cause I'm not part of the activities anymore for this week. I didn't want to get back in that damn water again. So the fear overcame me, and all my insecurities from my dad, from this small town, from everything started coming back. And even though no one knew how fucked up I was, kind of create this other person who was tough, I live with this shit all the time. So me not wanting to go back in that water, the doctor called me back up. I thought I was going to get like a medical kick out of the military. So no quitting for me. They'll kick me out so I can have some pride. The doctor said, no, man, we could put you back in the training. And I was like, fuck. But after a week, I'm like, you know what? I missed 1 week. There's only 3 weeks left. There's a good chance, I could tough this shit out and go on. But I went back to the CO and the commanding officer of the program, and the sergeant said, hey, you got to start from day one because you missed, that week of training. And I broke. I couldn't imagine going back through that again. So I made up a lie. And I said, man, the sickle cell thing is really scaring me. It was the fucking water. It wasn't sickle cell. And I pretty much quit. Even though they gave me a medical, I quit. So from the age of 19 to the age of 22, I went and did a job called TAC-P, where you control fast movers behind enemy lines. Cool job, but there's no water. I was afraid of the water, so I avoided it. And I gained 125 pounds in that time frame. I went from 175 to almost 300, to 297 was my heaviest. And I started finding things that was comfortable. And the more things I found comfortable, the more uncomfortable my mind was. Because that voice I was telling you about, it always was there. I was just trying to avoid that conscience. I wanted to be left alone from that conscience, and it wouldn't leave me alone. So I got out of the Air Force, and I started working for a job called Ecolab, where you spray for cockroaches at 24. And spraying at different steak and shakes, Red Lobster, whatever, from 11 o'clock at night to 7 o'clock in the morning. And what changed, I came home and watched this Discovery Channel show, Class 224. I came home from Steak and Shake. I sprayed it down last, get a big old large 42-ounce shake, walk across the street and get a box of mini donuts from 7-Eleven. And I would drive home for 45 minutes. This big old fat guy who, yeah, I worked out, but I was fat. I didn't run, didn't PT, I just hit the gym. So driving home, turn the TV on, and what comes on, Discovery Channel show, and that's where everything changed for me. I was taking a shower, I walked out, heard these guys, and I watched the show, and it made me reflect big time on the piece of shit that I am, and I'm exactly what people said I was going to be. So
what was on this show that really struck home?
It was, I saw these guys going in the water, so I was terrified of it. I mean, I can't even express. Have you ever had a big fear And I know a lot of fighters have fears and stuff like that, but they get over them. But a lot of us have these fears that you just don't want to fucking face. And I have a lot of them. And that's what created the person who's in front of you today. And we'll get into that.